So this is the kickoff of cluster 6 and our first AT is AT5. So you can see from here that we're reviewing the systems of the body, and we're actually going to do this as a class presentation. So I guess my hot tip is I would, to help you with this submission, print off your printable Word document and bring it to class. And you'll be able to populate some of these boxes during class and tidy them up yourself. The class session will also be followed by you doing the quiz in the opposite. So you're actually going to do your presentations and then you'll do the quizzes after, whereas we usually do the quizzes before. But that will be explained more in the first session for cluster 6. So here you've got 4 questions, and question 1, for each of these systems or organs, we want you to do 3 things. We want you to identify 3 related conditions or disorders, 3 for each system. So 3 disorders of the musculoskeletal, skin, cardiovascular, respiratory, gastrointestinal, and put those in your boxes. Then we want you to, part B is list specific diagnostic tests that you might undertake in testing for these conditions. If there's no specific diagnostic test, you might use specific signs and symptoms. So, for example, for the cardiovascular system, you might say that you would do an ECG. Okay, so that would be one example of one thing that you might do as a test to assess the cardiovascular system. So if there's not a test, we want you to talk about signs and symptoms. And part C of question 1 is we want you to identify 3 specific nursing interventions for each of the listed disorders. Okay, so for example, for cardiovascular, you might say that a nursing intervention would be that you would give some education around diet and exercise. So there might be multiple things you might say to a cardiac patient if they've got cardiovascular disease, but one might be you're asked for 3 per condition, but for the cardiovascular system, for example, one of your nursing interventions might be education about diet and exercise. Okay, can't just say education. All right, so you'd need 2 more things for that cardiovascular example. Okay, so for that's for question 1. There's 3 parts per condition, and then per part there might be 3 things you need to do for each condition. Okay, question 2. We want you to outline 2 nursing interventions for disorders of the following systems. Okay, so up here, okay, so I understand that they have been listed up here, and it seems a little bit repetitive. However, you've only been asked for 3 up here and 3 up there. So there's more than 3 disorders of the urinary system and the reproductive system. So this question is asking you for different ones, different interventions for different disorders that you might have listed up here. Okay, we'll talk about it more in class, but yes, up here you've already perhaps done what seems to be this, but in question 2 we're asking you to find 2 more urinary system disorders and therefore 2 interventions for 2 different disorders than you've defined up here It's definitely a little bit of research. If you haven't come across more than 5, that's 5 in total, 3 up here, 3, and then another 2 here, okay? Nursing interventions, so things that you might do as a nurse to assess and or assist the patient for these for 2 different conditions. Okay, question 3 is actually just a quick couple of sentences. This is problem solving. Why might a bladder washout be required? Okay, so why might you need to do a manual bladder washout for a patient? And question 4, there's 4 parts to it. Okay, these are all tests and things, nursing skills that you may perform on a patient. Okay, so what we want you to do is tell us step by step how you would perform a spirometer test on a patient. How would you do a peak flow test? How would you do an ECG? And how would you take oxygen saturation levels? So we literally want you to dot by dot tell us step by step what you would do. Okay, so let's take the ECG example. We want you to tell us all the things you would do to take an ECG, to placing the dots, where you would place them, what troubleshooting you would do, all the things that you need to do step by step. It's like you're writing the procedure manual. It's like you were writing a procedure for how to do these 4 things, okay? And dot points are totally okay per test to do. And then you're done for AT5.